Let's start with SD card. I'm going to put the SD card in. To put the SD card, you'll have to open the gate at the back and then put the SD card to one of the sockets. To activate the SD card, you have to close the gate. Let's see what's happened. Okay, as you can see, on the left side of the screen, we have A and B. That represents the SD card. At the moment, both of them are red, which means that something's wrong. There could be two potential problems with your SD card. A, it could be locked. So on the side, the switch is turned to the lock, or the camera will ask you to format the card. So let's open the gate and let's check what has happened. Okay, so on the side of the card, this the slider is pushed to the lock, which means I have to push it up. When on the SD card, you'll notice that there is an SD card, when the slider is moved to the lock, then you won't be able to record anything. And that's what this camera is telling you, that the card is not prepared for recording. Okay, so let's put it back and hopefully we'll get the green light. I'm closing the gate and let's wait. Yes, and on the left side you can see that it recognizes SD card, which is green A. It tells us how much time of the recording is available on this card, which in this case is 146 minutes. Let's go and try to format the card. So I'm going to go to the menu. To actually move through the menu, you'll have to press the button menu on the OLED screen, and right next to it there is a joystick for you to move through the settings. I'm going to press menu. Let's see what we have here. So there is a camera setup, audio setup, video setup, VF setup, time code, other functions, my menu. Let's stick to other functions. So I'm going to press left and let's go all the way down. Okay, initialize media. This is the settings for formatting the card. I'm going to select that. I'm going to select SD card 1 and I'm going to give it a quick formatting. So anytime before you start shooting, it's good for you to initialize the media, which means basically to format the card. Okay, let's go back. Let's stay with other functions for now. Here, what you can do as well, you can actually set the recording format. So once you go to movie format, you can choose between MP4 and AVCHD. MP4 will create separate files. AVCHD will create the files similar to what you have you probably can recognize from the Sony camera from the first year. I'm going to stick to AVCHD, okay, and then let's go back. Okay, and here one step below, you can actually change the settings. So as you can see here, we have movie format, then AVCHD and MP4. I'm going to stick to AVCHD. Once you press it, it tells you how many bit rate the footage is going to be recorded onto the card. We stick to 24, and then you can change the frame rate as well. So let's click on frame rate, and you have choice between 50 frames per second and 25 frames per second. So I'm going to stick to 25 frames per second. Okay, so here there is another option. It's a double slot recording. This is a very useful option when you would like to record the same footage into two cards. So if, for example, you have someone who's working with you on a project and someone who wants to have a copy of your card, or maybe you want to create a copy of your card at the same time. Basically, you can put two cards inside and then choose the option there by choosing on. Okay, now let's look at the display and let's see what we can see on the screen. So looking at the left of the screen, there is information about SD card. Then you have information about the lens. So in this case, you can see there it says 72, but if I zoom in, the number will change. So I can go from 18 to 135. Let's see actually how the image looks like for the second. Okay. All right. I'm going to focus. So I managed to zoom in with this lens, which is 135, and I'm going to zoom out. Okay, and this is 35. So as you can see, as you zoom in and zoom out, you'll be able to see the information. If you're using prime lenses, then the number is going to stay the same. Next, we have focus mode. So you can have automatic focus or manual focus. At the moment, as you can see, it's MF, which means that I have control of focusing. If you would like to go to automatic, you'll have to change it on the side of your lens, which is right here. Next, we have ND filters. It's not on the screen yet, but once I turn the wheel, you'll be able to the information. At the moment, there is an ND2 for stops, ND1, 2 stops, and 0. Let's get to the K icon. So the K stands for Kelvin color temperature, and this is your white balance. To change the white balance and the settings of the white balance, you'll have to use the joystick. So first I'm going to press it to activate the joystick. As you can see now on the screen, there is a orange square. If I turn it left or right, it's going to actually jump between those 4 options. I'm going to stay on kelvins, and I'm going to press it again. And then by doing up and down, you can actually jump between a few options that this camera will give you to change the white balance. Let's see what we have here. So you have automatic white balance A, automatic white balance B. So this is going to be useful if, for example, you're going from a room, if you're going outside. So first you can set your white balance A in a room, and then you can set your white balance outdoors. This will be your white balance B. And then as you go from one room to another, you can basically flick between those 2 options, and the white balance is going to jump from one room to another automatically. Okay, next we have the icon of the sun. This is preset for recording outdoors. Then we have a light bulb. This is a preset for filming indoors. And we have kelvins. So with kelvins, you can actually adjust the temperature yourself. And to do that, you have to press it and go right. And then by pushing it up, the numbers are going to change. And the temperature is going to be warmer. And by pulling the joystick down, you will reduce the number on the kelvins, which will create the colder look. So you can control the white balance yourself. You can do it manually by using kelvins. Or you can actually use the automatic option. And to use the automatic white balance, I'm going to go back to the preset to automatic A. And on the side of the camera, there is a button here with those 3 triangles. Once you press it, the camera is going to search for the white color itself. It's best to have white paper in front of the camera, especially in the zone that you want to supplement the color tone. Okay, I'm going to change it. I like it warmer, so I'm going to change the kelvins. Let's go to let's keep it maybe 6,000. Yeah, okay, let's keep it 6,000. Great. So that's icon K. Right below it, there is F, and F stands for aperture value. So if I close the aperture, you can see the number is, we can get to 32. Each lens has its own brightness, and it starts from a unique number. With this lens, we're going to start with 5. So 5 means actually that the aperture is completely open. And then we can turn it and lock it. And then we can get to 32. And this is where the aperture is closed. Okay, right next to it, there is ISO. Right next to it, there is the exposure. And we have 150. It stands for shutter speed. So before we get into ISO and shutter speed, I want to tell you the magic setup. So the magic setup will be to have ISO on 850. As you can see, there are brackets on the side. So this is the standard for this camera. And with shutter speed, we're going to stick to the double amount of the frames per second. So if you're filming 25 frames per second, your shutter speed should be 150. I would take actually the print screen of this image at the moment, because that is going to be your standard. So as you can see, the image is quite dark, which means that we'll have to open the iris. Going from the right top, we have timecode with the information about progressive or interlaced. Then we have bit rates, we have resolution, frame rates. Next we have audio channels and the audio level meters. These are right here. Let's take a look at ISO. So thanks to the joystick, you'll be able to increase or reduce the amount of light that's getting into the sensor. So as I said, 850 is the native for this camera. That's why it's in the bracket. But from there, you can actually increase the brightness, and you can go to 20,000, or you can make your image darker, and it gets to 320. But remember that by moving up and down using ISO, you are actually brightening your image electronically. So everything that you're going to do might affect the quality of your image. So for example, if you go all the way up to 20,000 in a post-production, you'll be able to see a lot of grain. Grain is basically the noise, which is in a darker area. So my recommendation is, first of all, try to reduce the light with ND filter because it doesn't affect the quality of your image. Then use aperture, and remember that aperture is going to change the amount of depth of field in the image. And next, you can use ISO, but remember, don't go into extreme. And the last thing for you to use is shutter speed. Let's take a look at the shutter speed. So the shutter speed, as you can see, by adding more into shutter speed, it's getting darker. But if I go to 25, it's brighter. But with it, there is actually the loss of the quality. In this case, what's happening, as you can see, the image is going to be more ghostly. So if I move the camera, and this is the end of this presentation. I hope that now you feel much more comfortable using Canon C100 Mark II camera.